Right, the last point of the show is intentionally chosen to sort of address a past. It might even have been the last episode, I forget. We did that one where the whole snaptap ROPS controversy had come up of this keyboard that does like an even better version of what the Wooting thing does, where essentially the idea is like you can essentially do 2 inputs at once. So there's no longer like a timing difference between pressing strafe left and strafe right. There's no longer like, oh, I have to wait till the key comes. It just does it instantly. Now, the problem is I haven't used that keyboard. In fact, most people don't seem to have used that keyboard except certain pros. And so we were going, as you saw in the episode, I Googled what is the explanation from the company of what this feature does. And because they just made it sound, as I said, I gave the contrast of think about going from a membrane keyboard to like a one where it has actual proper fucking mechanical keyboard to this just sounded like the next evolution. And I gave the analogy of ball mouse to optical to laser, right? We could look, they all would give you an advantage, but the question is this just something which if we all get it just makes the game better? I actually naively at the time thought this was just like an upgrade in that sense. Like, hopefully, I was hoping it just essentially means you won't have like a misclick or something, and now Nico and Donk and all these guys will be just studied. After watching, I'll give credit, I'll actually tell the editor to link this. Flom did an interesting video where he looked at a bunch of stuff actually in Valorant of people using this keyboard. And I have to say, now I get, because Rops actually reached out to me, now I get why people like Rops do apparently think it's cheating. Like, essentially, they think the problem is, it's not that it's like allowing more skill expression. To them, it just raises the floor of like how everyone clicks to get too much. And it's going to make it so that like, essentially, this is why the analogy is jump, throw, binds, and scripts, right? If you have that, the problem with the jump, throw, bind is everyone can do it every time. Whereas I can tell you, and everyone who plays Pro CS knows this, there are loads of smoke lineups that actually only really sick pros can do, and people have put in mad hours doing it. So I think it's more comparable to that. So actually, I wanted to put in ugly because I'm not actually totally sure myself. I haven't used it still where it comes down, but I want to open the conversation because it seems like there's more there than maybe we led on in that particular episode, you know.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Like when I see the description initially and I hear that it's supposed to help you with counter strafing, I did think it was just some weird like advanced ghosting software built in or something that was actually built in like some sort of firmware maybe that's. But it turns out the reality is that it's beyond insane. Like in theory, what they've done isn't that crazy, but its applications in Counter-Strike are insanely potent. It goes from essentially being counter-strafing being a process where you've got to understand the timing of it and feel it and know when you're supposed to start shooting to just the moment you touch your counter key, you can shoot, which in Counter-Strike we've never had before without using scripts. So that's why it feels the same as really cheating did before. And when you watch it in practice, how you can play with this level of tapping precision between your movement keys, if everyone has access to this, the game will be reduced to a weird like game of oscillating deathmatch. It's very silly looking, and I think, honestly, for the sanity of gamers and the sanctity of events coming forward, it has to just be removed. I personally cannot stand to see this in the game because it would just make a lot of things farcically easy.
Yeah, this is one of the, I think, the rare times that Thorin and I don't just, like, usually if we have a take about something, I think we're ready to defend it. But there's just been enough that has come out that I can't double down on this. This is like, after seeing more clips come out, more YouTube videos about what this keyboard is able to do, and I think now Wooting has implemented the same feature in some sort of like firmware update. It seems like that there's too much. You gain way too much from doing this, and it's not like it doesn't seem like there's enough use cases where it's like, oh, but using this actually hurts you in this specific way. It seems almost purely beneficial, and because it's taking away some of the skill aspect of counter strafing, which is obviously one of the fundamental mechanics of the game, it's almost like I think the easiest way I can equate it after watching more and more videos is imagine you can always do the Shoryuken uppercut with like a single motion in a fighting game. Like it takes like a quarter circle to do that motion normally, and that's your anti-aerial move in a fighting game. If someone jumps against you, that's what you do. And I feel like now with this keyboard, it's almost like you're just pressing one key to do what should be a multi-key movement. And I actually remember this happening on ESEA back when I'm pretty sure back when I was playing Source, and there was a discussion on those forums where someone made alias binds for the first time about how it was a bind that made it so that if you're holding W and A or W and D, it's known if you're holding those keys, it is notoriously hard to counter strafe when you're holding 2 movement keys, because you would have to press the opposing S and D or S and A keys to stop your momentum, and not many people could do it. That's why professionals don't run around holding WD, WA. And I actually fear with snaptap now you can just hold diagonal movements, and then you could just counter strafe perfectly with that also.
Right.
Like, that's what I don't even think people
You can almost
really
like buffer the
about
movement,
that.
basically, right?
Yeah, that's game breaking in terms of the way we even envision fights, because we're so used to just having to hold D and then press A to counter strafe. But now you can actually, I think you can do diagonal motions too. And the people were showing on Reddit, yeah, you can just flat out hold W, run forward, and instantly counter strafe backwards. You have never been able to do that in Counter-Strike. That's why you never see people charging forward in fights. You generally want to see people strafe perpendicularly to their opponent, because it's the easiest way to counter strafe for them, and that's the muscle memory that they've built over so much time. And now, and like, there's a way you can see this that's like, oh, won't this make the game better overall? But it's just that this is such a fundamental aspect to developing mechanical skill that if you're going to start allowing this, it really feels like this is a slippery slope in terms of what you can allow with multi-key aliasing that can seriously break the mechanics. And really just, yeah, it doesn't necessarily, I don't know if it raises the ceiling as much as it just raises the floor, and to me that's flawed, because counter-strafing is just such an essential part of this game.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.